Welcome to Season 2 of the Rise podcast, brought to you by Rise Physio and Rise Fitness. I'm Matthew Camilleri, I'll be your host. I'm a physiotherapist and the founder of Rise Physio and Rise Fitness. Our mission is to help you move better for the long term. We'll share expert tips, real rehab situations, and how to be better for the long term. Building a stronger, healthier you, one step at a time. Today's guest is a qualified nutritional therapist with a special interest in hormone health, gut health, and the connection between food, mood, and mental well-being. Her approach blends science-backed nutrition advice with an understanding of how stress, lifestyle, and emotional patterns impact the body and mind. Ultimately, her aim is to make nutrition feel empowering, joyful, and realistic, not restrictive and overwhelming. Today, we're going to discuss a topic extremely close to my heart, finding long-term solutions for health-related problems. This time, we'll be tackling it from the lens of nutrition rather than physiotherapy and exercise. Sara Borg, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you. And how are you?
I'm good. It's really great to be here. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So we really look to kind of have conversations that help people be healthy for the long term. And I think this is going to be a huge part of it. I never let people off lightly. So we'll start with a deep one immediately, a tough one immediately. Are there any of these extreme diet trends that are out there at the moment that do make sense? Is there anything that you can support in any way, form, or style?
So the thing is with these extreme diets, they're not looking at the individual, right? So with nutrition, there's no one-size-fits-all approach. So for instance, if we think about keto, which is really popular, it might work for some people, but keto diets were created for only short-term use for people with epilepsy. So the long-term effects for some people can actually not be that great. Let's say if they don't break down fats properly, it can cause further health issues. So I really believe that with diets, whether it's veganism, carnivores, keto, you really have to look at what's fitting right for that person. But in general sense, I don't believe in extreme diets.
Okay, so there's always a but or if or extra bit. But that's super interesting. So the keto diet was actually created for a particular medical condition and it was just taken on by the masses.
Yeah.
That's insane. So
there's a lot of good research coming out behind it, even for mental health and Alzheimer's, but it's still in its development. So it's hard to say that we should all be keto.
Okay. And on that same topic, a lot of people would say that one of the only ways to lose weight, to get leaner, anything like that, is to cut out carbs. Is that the case? I mean, I hear balanced opinions about this, different ideas. So what's your take on that?
So carbohydrates are actually a source of fuel, okay? So that glucose goes to the brain, gives us energy. So we need carbohydrates. And especially women who go on low-carb diets can really struggle with cortisol regulation, with hormonal balance. So in the long run, it can actually lead to weight loss resistance because it can also affect thyroid hormone conversion. And the thyroid gland is home of metabolism.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So
okay.
I believe that some people might benefit from going lower carb, but again, it's about personalizing how many carbs do you need to be eating in a day, depending on your genetics, on how you're handling blood glucose, so how your body's going to break down that glucose from those carbohydrates, and also your activity levels and your age.
Okay, so once again, it really sounds like you have to tailor things really to the individual.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm sure there's general advice that fits for everyone. Like, I'm sure eating sugar 24/7 is not a good idea for anyone.
Of course.
But tailoring seems like it needs to be the most important factor overlying everything else.
Yes.
Okay, another quick myth I'd like to have you bust or tell me the truth as early as possible. Not eating food late, especially not eating carbs late, so not eating after 6 p.m. This is one of the trends we've heard about when it comes to weight loss. Is that a thing or not really?
So human beings are diurnal, right? So we're meant to be alert and eating when the sun's out, and then at night when the sun sets and the moon's out, that's when we're meant to be resting and winding down for a better sleep. So naturally at night, our insulin levels, the secretion slows down. So we might not be able to break down those carbohydrates as effectively or utilize them. Plus during the day, if we're active, we're burning that energy from the carbohydrates. But then there may be people who actually benefit from a certain type of carb at night. So the slower releasing carbs. So things like sweet potato, so your root vegetables and whole grains paired with some protein and vegetables can actually keep your glucose levels stable throughout the night so that you're not waking up because you've had a dip in sugar.
Okay, so if I don't eat enough in the evenings, that could actually wake me up, affect my recovery. We talk about sleep all the time. It's the fundamental of sleep, of recovery, and of feeling better. So essential that there's that balance as well.
Yes, and again, there's no one-size-fits-all approach. So I have clients who really benefit from starting a fast at 6 p.m. and maybe sticking to protein and veg. And then I have clients who need the carbohydrates and who need to maybe have a bit of a snack a bit later on. So again, like it's hard to give a general approach to everyone.
Okay. So I think the themes that have come out from this first little segment are that it has to be individualized,
Yes.
and balance is normally better than anything extreme.
Yes, definitely.
Cool. Now, preparing for this, you spoke to me a lot about the importance of testing. It's one of the values we hold dear at Rise Physiotherapy as well. And I was super interested to hear it's a big part of your practice as well.
Yeah.
So can you talk to me a bit about that? So are there essential tests that you want all your clients to come in with, even though the basis, the treatment you're going to give is nutrition based? What's that all about?
So normally before I see clients, I always get them to do like a full comprehensive blood test so that we can look at like the general markers. So their iron levels, iron status, their glucose, insulin, cholesterol, thyroid function, vitamin D, all of these things that can give me a bit of an idea of what's going on with their health status currently. Then I also do functional testings in my clinic. So looking at stool testing, looking at microbiome, gut health, nutrigenomic testing, which is looking at how your environment and your diet can influence your genetics. I might do hormone profiles, which are looking at how your body is metabolizing hormones, your cortisol levels throughout the day, which looks at your stress, how your adrenal glands are functioning. So these tests obviously are not necessary for everyone. I understand that sometimes budget is an issue, they're expensive. But I do believe that when there are certain cases where there are issues that have been chronic, or if people really want to look at optimizing their health, then they can be super beneficial.
Okay, and functional testing, you've also spoken to me about genetic testing. Can
Yes.
you take me into a bit more detail about that? So what's genetic testing all about?
So in my clinic, what I use is nutrigenomic testing.
Okay.
So we look at different panels of genes. So there might be different pathways that someone would be interested in looking at. So I might have people who suffer from anxiety chronically, and we look at, for example, a nervous system pathway, which will basically show us how their body is using proteins to produce brain chemicals, neurotransmitters, like serotonin, dopamine, GABA, and how this could be influencing their moods. And then through the testing, I would be able to help them understand what nutrients they need to be including in their diet to support their genes.
Okay.
So I always like to use this analogy. So imagine your genes are like a loaded gun, but your environment is what pulls the trigger.
No way. And is this something that changes from month to month or year to year, or is this something that stays stable forever? So if I've done a genetic test now, a certain pathway, that's going to stay the same for the rest of my life?
For the rest of your life.
Wow, so it's definitely a good investment, something to do one-off, just to
Yes.
understand how your body is.
Yes, it's the one test that you only have to do once. Because
Oh,
blood
okay.
tests, I mean, you'll do like once, twice a year even. Whereas a genetic, nutrigenomic test, you only do once, nothing's going to change.
So the genetic testing that you're speaking to me about, that's a baseline that I'm going to keep with me forever.
Yeah.
Whereas my bloods are something that I've looked at, but they're going to change depending on treatment, depending on nutrition, depending on
Yes.
exercise levels.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that's super interesting. I mean, for anyone data-driven, I think the genetic testing is definitely something.
It's amazing, and I've had some really, really good outcomes with clients with the nutrigenomics.
Okay, so would you agree with the fact that everyone should have this kind of testing done at least once in their life? Is it something...
Yeah.
And is
for
it
sure.
accessible nowadays, or is it something super expensive you have to travel abroad for?
Super accessible. So you get the test kit arriving to your home. You just take a swab of saliva in your mouth, and then we send it out by post, and then I'll get the results, and I can analyze them in detail and give you a plan accordingly.
Okay. And is this all part of that umbrella of functional medicine? So is this what we're talking about at the moment, functional medicine? And how does functional medicine differ to traditional medicine? What's the difference there?
Okay, so with functional medicine, we're always looking at the why behind what's happening with the client in front of us. Okay, so why are you here? Why are you suffering from, let's say, chronic headaches or digestive issues, rather than focusing on the what? So in traditional conventional medicine, it's more like acute treatment. So you might need surgery, you have an infection, you need to take antibiotics, or you have a broken bone and you need it to be fixed. Okay, so that's more acute. Whereas with functional medicine, we're looking at the body as a whole system, and we're trying to analyze, okay, what's going on? Why is this person suffering from chronic bloating? Okay, it's IBS, but what does that tell me? It doesn't tell me anything about her how the digestive system is functioning, the microbiome balance. Are their stress levels influencing how they're feeling? Is it their environment, their relationships? So it's taking more of an umbrella approach, which combines both science-backed evidence and also holistic health.
Okay. So traditional medicine is really there. If you are acutely in pain, you need to save your life, feel better as quickly as possible. And I think both of us agree that in no way are we saying traditional medicine needs to have its head chopped off or not exist.
No, it's life-saving.
Definitely.
For sure.
We see this a lot with physio as well. Like if a bone is broken, get to emergency. We have to put in a plaster. Like don't start rehab exercises from day one. You know, and I'm sure it's the same thing here.
Yes.
I think perhaps, and I don't know if you agree with me with this, traditional medicine fails a little bit then when it comes to this long-term solution to why is this happening? How do we fix it? How do we get people out of this chronic loop of I'm feeling terrible, I'm going to do something about it. I'm feeling terrible, I'm going to do something about it. Maybe a bit more forward-facing.
Yes, and rather than you're just like putting a band-aid over the symptom, you know, you're actually looking a bit deeper as to why it's there and how can we find a more long-term solution for it that's going to keep you consistently well.
Okay, and would you say so? Genetic testing and functional medicine, so these areas we're talking about, are they kind of cornerstones of your care? Are they part of like your whole methodology? What's that about?
Yes, so I use like a triangle of care, I call it. So when I'm working with a client and I'm analyzing their case, I'm looking at the physical, the emotional, and the energetic. Okay, so let's break that down. So like the physical is like what's happening in the body. So what symptoms are they presenting with? Do they have issues in their skin? Are they suffering from digestive problems? Are they suffering from insomnia? Okay. And then the emotion is looking at their feelings, their past traumas, unresolved issues, which could be affecting their boundaries, their self-criticism, how they approach things in their day-to-day life. And then the energetic is looking at their connection, so to mind, body, environment. So connection to self, connection to nature, connection to the people around them, their energy that they carry, whether they're following their life's purpose, are they in alignment with how they want to be living their life. And when you have all these three balanced, you feel more grounded, you feel more connected, and you feel better.
And what does it mean to have all three balanced? Like, you start to lose me a little bit as soon as we go into the energetic world. I think you see my eyes start to open up just because I'm so kind of grounded in the world of science and in the world of research. So are there tests you can complete? Are there things you can understand? Or is it a little bit more soft skills than that? How would you open that up?
Yes, so there's no science, I guess, that backs up certain things when it comes to spirituality or energetics. But I guess what we can say is that for me, the energetic side of it is more about thinking about how you're living your day-to-day life. Are you rushing against time? Are you living according to how you want to be living your life? Or are you living according to what you should be living? So, for example, what society tells you to be doing. So are you living with purpose? Are you spending time outdoors? Or are you constantly under artificial lighting and not connecting with nature? So these very things are what give us energy. You know, have you ever heard of grounding?
To some extent or other.
Yes.
Probably not as in-depth an explanation as you can give me, but yeah.
Okay, so grounding is literally just placing your bare skin, so whether that's your feet or your whole body, on the ground, on earth. So it has to be grass or sand or just rock. And earth emits energy into the body, okay? And there's actually been studies behind this, which is science-backed, on helping people with recovering from injuries, speeding up wound healing. Like the science behind it is amazing, but it's so important to remember that we are living now in a world where we are in offices, high-rise buildings, we're wearing shoes, you know, so these are all things that we weren't brought to this world to be living in. So I think it's just about getting my clients to understand, are you spending enough time with yourself, connecting with nature, having these things that are also going to support your health as much as the food that you're eating on your plate.
Okay, so you really bring it into this. You're not changing things just because of one aspect of your practice.
No.
You're trying to look at an all-rounded approach. And has this triangle of care come from trying to fix things from one aspect only and not managing and trying to look at the broader picture? Is that kind of the evolution of where this came from?
Yes. So when I started practicing and I had my qualifications in nutritional therapy, I had already been practicing for around 4 or 5 years. And I was noticing how with certain clients, certain behaviors were really hard to change. Okay. So for instance, like chocolate addiction. Okay. You can have chocolate addiction because, yes, sugar is addictive. So it can cause certain addictive tendencies. But then you can have also the emotional ties to the craving of a certain food. So that food for someone, so me having a chocolate at the end of my day when I've had a really hard, shitty working day, having that chocolate is a reward for me. And maybe that reward was given to me in my younger years. Maybe it's relating to past trauma. Okay, so when I started to study behavior change, it helped me to understand how our behaviors and our patterns and our beliefs shape how we act in our day-to-day lives.
Okay. It sounds like your consultations must go on for 2 or 3 hours because you really have to go into a lot of
Yes.
detail to try to understand the person in front of you.
Yes.
And it always feels quite challenging to understand if a problem is coming from a pure biological source or a pure input or this deeper psychological or, in your concept, energetic principle as well. Like how do you ever get to figuring that out? Do you try an intervention, see if it creates change and then try something else? Like what's the process?
I think it's really about asking the right kind of questions, and I think that's come with experience. I mean, I've worked with clients now for over 12 years because before I was a nutritionist, I was a beauty and massage therapist. So I've always been in client service, and it's helped me to be able to see my clients and try to understand them on a deeper level. So yes, in fact, my initial consultation is an hour and a half.
Okay.
Because it's literally me asking them lots and lots of questions. Sometimes they're like, why are you asking me that? What does that have to do with it? But it really helps me to start to paint a picture and realize, okay, who's this person in front of me? What am I working with? How can I best support them? Because ultimately, you are going to help yourself. You're going to be doing the work when you're not with me. But I'm there to guide you and help you maybe become aware of certain things.
Definitely. You are a coach in the whole principle. Same thing I tell my clients, that we can't really change you unless you have the want to change things. At the end of the day, it has to come from an underlying reason why in the client's eyes, so.
Exactly.
Okay, you're blowing my mind already. I mean, it was... in my mindset, we could go to a nutritionist just with our body weight and that's enough, but apparently we need genetic testing and there's a lot more than just food when it comes to this triangle of care, so that's great. I know that one of the huge things that you have to deal with on a daily basis is gut health. I'm sure it's one of the things that in this modern, fast-paced society we're living in, more and more clients are approaching you with issues in this area. I'd love to learn a little bit more about the correlation between nutrition, gut health, and how we feel in general. Can poor gut health and poor nutrition do more than just make me overweight or obese? Can it also make me function in a less ideal manner?
Yes, of course. So the gut is basically where predominantly people think of the gut as, okay, that's where I digest my food. Okay, food goes into my mouth and there's my stomach, I break it down, and then those nutrients are absorbed into the bloodstream. But it's so much more than that. So the gut is also home to our gut microbiome, which is this environment in our large intestine where trillions of microbes live. Okay, so these microbes include things like bacteria, parasites, funguses, okay, and they're in constant communication between our body and our brain, okay? So what we eat influences the balance of this microbiome. So the amazing thing is that we have a huge role to play in the balance of these gut microbes.
Through our nutrition.
Through our nutrition, through stress management, because stress can also throw off the balance, through what we're ingesting other than food. So certain medications like overuse of antibiotics, let's say, can also degrade beneficial bacteria as well as good bacteria, as well as the bad infections, and also exposure to toxins in our environment. Okay, so certain pesticides, certain toxic chemicals that we find in cosmetics, everyday things that we might use, like shampoo, conditioner. Our bloodstream is, our skin absorbs around almost 60% of what we put on it.
Wow, okay.
So all of these things can influence the balance of the microbiome. And we're seeing more and more of this coming out in the research. But all these gut microbes, what do? So they support our immune function. And also when they feed off fiber, so when we eat vegetables, legumes, all these different types of plant fiber, they produce metabolites, which are short-chain fatty acids that then feed the cells lining our colon, right? So they keep it intact. They keep our bowel movements regular. They also produce neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. So serotonin, for those who don't know, is our happy brain chemical, and dopamine is the chemical that gives us a feeling of motivation and pleasure. Okay, so they have a lot of functions, and they also regulate our satiety and appetite signals. So they have a very important role, as you mentioned before, in weight management, but also in our cravings.
Okay. That's quite incredible. So the gut is literally a second brain inside of us that can regulate how we feel, what we do, if we're motivated or not, just from chemicals released depending on what we eat.
Yeah.
Okay, we've spoken about the positives of what to put into the gut. If I were to really press you, what's the number one food that's a complete gut killer? So what would do the opposite, just make us feel terrible and make us feel like we're all over the place?
Okay. So there are, I would say, a couple. So I would say ultra-processed food, so high in refined sugars and hydrogenated vegetable oils. Also things like artificial sweeteners, okay? There's been some research showing that they can disrupt the balance of the microbiome. And things like alcohol as well can also degrade the gut lining and can also throw off the balance of the gut microbiome as well.
Okay, is this a one-off? So if I drink alcohol one time or eat an ultra-processed food one time, is it going to make me feel bad in the moment? Or do I have to use the product for weeks, months before I'm starting to see any negative effect?
I mean, with alcohol, I would say that we all pretty much feel quite crap the next day. I don't know about you. But with ultra-processed food, no. I mean, it's really not about fear-mongering. I think as well, I really want to make it clear that there's so many claims all over the internet now. Don't eat this, don't eat that, it's going to do this to you. We have to look at the majority of the diet. So if your diet is predominantly filled with home-cooked meals, you know exactly what's going in your food, you're eating less from a packet and more food in its real, fresh form that you can actually visualize it and it is what it is, rather than something packaged and created into something else, I don't know, like a protein bar, for example.
Okay, so that's somewhere I'd love to lead you. Can you give me some examples so people understand what ultra-processed foods are? Because it's a term that seems to be thrown around all over the internet, don't touch it, it's so evil, it's so bad for you. But what is an ultra-processed food? Is it a white loaf of bread? Is it a protein bar? Where do we cut the line?
So there's ultra-processed food and processed food. So there are certain foods that are processed that are actually good for us. So things like sauerkraut, for example. It's a fermented type of cabbage that's full of probiotic bacteria. It's like you're taking your daily probiotic supplement.
Oh, okay.
That's processed. The way it's being created is processed. It's left in a brine solution. It's left to ferment. It's going through a process of processing, okay? Literally.
Lovely way to put it.
Then you have ultra-processed foods, which are manufactured, okay, in factories. They may use a lot of hydrogenated vegetable oils that have been reheated, so they're oxidized, which can cause a lot of inflammation in the body. They might use a lot of artificial sweeteners instead of sugar because it's healthier. Okay, all these different chemical ingredients that change the texture of a food to make it highly palatable and to make it last longer. Okay, so that's the ultra-processed food. And these are things that the body cannot really digest so well, and that can cause things like inflammation and issues with the gut.
Okay. Is there any way I can walk into a supermarket and understand what is ultra processed? What do I need to leave out of my shopping basket? Is it, as I had a friend tell me lately, if you turn a label around and it's full of E's, you know, it's something to leave out. Is that a good piece of advice? Just something that people can think about easily when they're out shopping and trying to make good decisions, because it feels almost impossible nowadays. You go to a supermarket, try to eat healthily, and
it's difficult.
It's so tough.
Yeah. So definitely try to shop from the fresh aisles. That's like my best tip. So try and like get the bulk of your food shopping from the fresh food aisles. Okay. So like all the nice fresh vegetables, frozen veg and fruits also great. Your butcher, your fishmonger, whatever. And then when you are shopping for like dry ingredients, like packaged ingredients, look at the label. And as a general rule of thumb, this is what I tell my clients. If it has more than 5 or 6 ingredients, put it back on the shelf. Especially if you're reading it and you're going like,
what is that?
No, I haven't heard of this before. You know, sounds way too like chemically scientific as a term. Is this something I would find in my kitchen cupboards alone as an ingredient? No.
Probably not.
So let me put it back.
Okay. I mean, I love that clarity because it just feels so complex. Like eating should be like a fundamental, sleep, eating, drinking enough water. Yes. It should be fundamentals. But it seems like, I don't know if it's the industry or just the way the world is going, has complexified it to a way where it's almost impossible to be healthy, you know? We're talking about the gut, and a term I've heard thrown around a lot is IBS and leaky gut.
Yeah.
Could you give me some more clarity about that? So what is IBS? What is leaky gut? Is it the same thing? Is it something that you treat, or is it something you have to go to hospital to get looked into? Could you give me a bit of insight?
Yes, so I work with both IBS and leaky gut. So IBS is irritable bowel syndrome, for those who don't know. So it's usually relating to a cluster of symptoms, okay? So things like bloating, diarrhea, constipation, stomach cramps, abdominal pain, okay? So if you're getting pain frequently, I always refer to a GP, gastroenterologist, just to see that there's nothing underlying going on that needs like acute treatment. With IBS, it can be overlapping with leaky gut, or it can just be stemming from either issues with you not producing enough digestive enzymes or stomach acid to break down a food, so then it's causing digestive issues because it's not been broken down properly. It can be relating to imbalance in the gut microbiome, and it can also be related to stress, okay, because of the link between the brain and the gut. And sometimes when we're feeling very anxious or we're going through a very hard, stressful period, a lot of people might say, I'm like constantly running through the loo when I'm stressed. That is because of the signals that are being sent from the brain down into the gut, okay? So that's IBS, and that can be worked on. You can heal your IBS. We'll get to that. Then you have leaky gut. So leaky gut refers to, more scientifically, it's increased intestinal permeability, okay? So imagine your gut lining, okay, is lined with tightly packed cells which act like soldiers. So they're like guarding you.
To stop things passing through
the bloodstream.
Into the bloodstream,
yes.
Okay.
So these cells can become more like a sieve, okay, let's say, where you have little tiny gaps, okay, very microscopic. And what can happen is when those gaps occur due to stress, overuse of antibiotics, we even seeing research on the contraceptive pill causing this, okay? What can happen is then you can have tiny food particles or toxins or bacteria entering into the bloodstream. And then your immune system will see that as a foreign invader. Hey, you're not supposed to be here. What are you doing here? So it starts attacking it. And this is causing a lot of systemic inflammation in the body, which can then appear as either digestive issues or things that are totally not relating to digestion.
Brain fog,
fatigue, headaches, period problems, depression, anxiety. Okay?
That is insane. So like the correlation between the gut and how we feel is just phenomenal.
Yes, it's foundational. So I would say with any client, I'm always going to be working on their gut health.
Okay. And you touched upon how we can start to fix these issues. So problems like leaky gut and IBS, is it the same things we've spoken about so far? So eating healthy foods and regulating our stress, or is there more to it than that?
So again, it would be very specific to the client. So I'd need to look at their whole health history first and their current diet, their stress levels, etc. But Normally, I would do like a gut healing program, which has different stages. So first, we're looking at like the removal stage. So we're removing any triggers that are triggering the symptoms at this moment in time. So this could be working on stress management if stress is a huge issue. It could be looking at their intake of alcohol. It could be looking at their intake of sugar. Or it could be looking at their intake of gluten and dairy. And it doesn't mean that these foods should not be eaten, but it could be that the body is just not tolerating them so well at the moment because the gut isn't in a state to be able to digest these foods.
And this is always one of these 5 factors that tends to be causing, is it the removal?
I would say they're like the main ones.
Okay,
and then there can be other things depending on the person. And then we have the repair stage where we're going into repairing the gut lining. So I might do this through the use of certain supplements. So things like there are special types of zinc that can heal the gut lining, glutamine, amino acids, omega-3s, polyphenols, which are those lovely pigments that give fruits and vegetables their color. So like things in berries, cacao, turmeric, dark leafy green vegetables. These contain antioxidants that can help your immune system function better and reduce inflammation. So then we do the repair phase, and then we do the rebalance phase, where we are literally planting the gut with foods that are going to feed your beneficial bacteria. Okay, so fiber, number 1. So your gut microbes love feeding off fiber. And fiber is found not only in vegetables, okay? So things like fruits, nuts and seeds, whole grains, so like your quinoa, your brown white rice, your barley, buckwheat, millet, and also things like herbs and spices, and legumes and pulses, okay? So I would really encourage to try and eat a variety of these foods. And then we want to be looking at things that are going to plant good bacteria in the gut. So those that I mentioned are the prebiotics, and then we have the probiotics. So like your kombucha, which I'm seeing here, and things like sauerkraut, which I was talking about before, kimchi, all these fermented types of vegetables, which are amazing because they last ages. You can leave them in the fridge, put a tablespoon on your plate of food, and they'll be like a condiment.
Okay.
You know, and you're literally eating your own probiotic every single day.
But you have to follow this process. So just starting from the tail end and just eating the right foods is not enough. We need to remove these factors that are stressing the gut and then rebalance and then finalize with kind of looking at the long term.
Yes.
I'm still a bit stuck on this removal phase because removing gluten and dairy might be easy enough. But then when it comes to things like stress, like we live in an inherently stressful world, like what advice do you give your clients on something like that? Because it feels like it's the fundamental problem of a million different medical conditions, things like problems people are suffering from. Like what should we do there? Is it back to the energetic now where we need to spend time in nature? Like how do we solve this problem?
So yeah, definitely nature is healing, right? So Japanese culture, they have something called forest bathing. So literally going in the forest, just listening to the sounds of the birds, the trees, just being really mindfulness, okay? But you don't need to go into a forest to practice mindfulness. I can be in this room and I can practice mindfulness by being really present. So I might like touch the table, feel the sensation of the table on my skin. Maybe I'm wiping my cupboard at home, and instead of doing it like a mad woman in a rush, I might slow down the pace. It's just tuning your body into slowing down and being more present. So stress is something that's there, okay? We cannot completely rid our lives of stress, unfortunately. But it's about finding ways to manage that stress, whether that's through mindfulness, whether that's through making time to hang out with your friends a couple of times a week so you can have a laugh. You know, maybe it's watching a comedy, maybe it's doing yoga or meditation, maybe it's going dancing. You know, that might be your release, that might be your therapy.
Okay, and again, individualized. So it's very much something that needs to fit with. I mean, I love the way you're talking about this. We had a sports psychologist on in one of the podcast episodes, and the big thing she spoke about is awareness, that needs to be step 1. Yeah. So you have to be aware that there is a problem, there is something that you need to focus on, because otherwise you're never going to wipe the table slowly. If you don't know it's a practice that needs to be done. Even spending time in nature, we know it feels good, but knowing that it's part of fixing a problem might be a much bigger picture, you know, people might understand that that's so important.
Yes.
Definitely. So from a gut health perspective, are there foods that no one should be eating, in the sense of, I know there are no extremes, but are there foods which the body is always going to consider inflammatory? So even if you are a super healthy person, good gut health, aware to manage your stress levels, are there foods that as soon as we put inside us, like, it's a no-go for gut health?
Honestly, if I had to think of one of the main ones, I would say artificial sweeteners.
Okay, so there's a trend with this. It's sugars, ultra-processed foods, artificial sweeteners that we
and
should
alcohol,
really be.
you know.
Okay.
And again, it's not, no, don't go and enjoy a glass of wine or two with your friends sometimes. Like that, we also have to remember that the joys of social connection are also important, right? That's also stress management.
Okay.
But then if you're binging every weekend on alcohol, then maybe it's about looking at the behavior behind why you're binging, and that's when the behavioral change comes in.
So alcohol in moderation is still a no-no, but we can't let it stress us out too much, because it does.
Yes.
We live in an incredibly complex machine. It's so hard to manage it. I wish there was a rule book that you could read from day one. I heard a really good quote that a lot of people try to read the user's manual of their body when they're in their 70s, when problems start to come out. Like, if we could get one when we were 15 years old and it was taught to us in schools, it sounds like we could avoid a lot of these issues.
Yes, but I think it's about, small changes. Like, when I see clients, if someone's really going through a hard time, I'm not going to give them a crazy protocol, because it's going to be more stressful for them. So I might give them one thing and they'll tell me like, that's it, Sara, that's all I have to do for the next 2 weeks. I'm like, that's all you have to do for the next 2 weeks. Let's make that a priority and hopefully become a consistent habit. And then we move on to the next thing.
Okay, so it's like trying to drive behavioral change through these kinds of things.
Yes.
Okay, we're talking a lot about stress. So is there a stress response? Like, how does the body react to stress? What does that actually look like? So, okay, a pipe exploded at my house and suddenly I'm stressed. I'm in this state where like things are like out of control for me. What's happening? What is actually happening? Is my gut becoming more leaky in that moment? Like, can you just walk me through that? I know it's a complex neurological process, but I'd love people to understand what stress is all about, because it's again a term that we all hear about. We know that it's not good for us, but how does that actually affect our body?
Okay, so the stress response is basically a response to a stressor. So like you're saying, your pipe burst at home. Now your body cannot tell the difference between your pipe bursting at home or you in the jungle and an animal is literally looking at you and is about to come and attack you.
Okay.
Your body is going to have the same stress response. So in that moment, your body will start to break down glycogen stores in the liver to convert them to glucose, so that sugar goes to your brain and keeps you on high alert.
Okay, fight or flight. So we're in the beginning of that.
We're in fight or flight. Your blood pressure rises, blood clotting mechanisms rise. So if you get cut by that animal that's about to bite you, you can clot your blood very quickly. Your pupils start to dilate, your heart rate raises. Okay, all of these things are happening. Now, if you are in a state of acute stress, so your pipe bursts at home and you're handling the situation, all well and good, it's done, that's one thing. It's survival mechanism, fight or flight isn't all that bad, right? We need it. But when that turns bad is when it becomes chronic. Okay, so you go from your pipe bursting at home to then you go home this evening, you have an argument with your partner. And then you're like, shit, I forgot to write down that email. That's another stress load. So it's literally building up a pile of books, I like to call it, like a pile of books of different stresses across the day, weeks, months, whatever. If you're not doing anything to lower that pile of book of stresses by practicing something that brings you joy and shifts you into a parasympathetic nervous system state, which is your rest and digest, the opposite of the fight or flight, that's when things become problematic. Okay. So if, let's say, you are in this chronic stress state and your insulin management goes out of control, you have high blood glucose, you're not digesting your food well, because if you're running away from a lion that's about to bite you,
it's the least of your
priorities. Reproductive system, who cares about having a baby right now? Okay, so that's when period problems arise for women, and a lot of the time period problems are stemming from imbalanced nervous system function and high stress load. So when I'm working with women with hormonal problems, I'm always looking at their nervous system function and their stress levels.
So this must definitely link to women trying to get pregnant, not managing to get
100%.
pregnant, more and more stress because they can't get pregnant when they want to. And
It's a vicious cycle.
it's a vicious cycle causing more and more issues.
Yes. For
That's
both the man and the woman, of course, because it takes two
Of
to
course,
tango.
takes two to tango. So far, we'll see.
Exactly.
So it almost sounds like it is our responsibility to shift ourselves into this parasympathetic state. It's not just something we can hope, because the input is always going to come. I mean, I feel like in this world with WhatsApp, email, a million communications, stressors everywhere, we really have to be mindful enough to shift ourselves into parasympathetic mode as often as possible.
Yes.
Is there a frequency which it needs to be done for us to be healthy? Like, do I need to make sure I'm de-stressing once a day? Is it something I need to, or is it not as finite as that?
I think we should all be making time for rest as much as we're making time for productivity.
Okay.
And I think this is the issue in today's society. You know, we're driven by this idea of I need to be productive. I need to get these goals done. And that's amazing. But are you prioritizing your rest as much as you're prioritizing going to the gym, getting all your goals done with work, all your deadlines, you know, showing up for your boss, all of these different things? I think so long as you're prioritizing sleep, you're eating well, and maybe doing something that brings some sense of rest and joy into your life as often as possible, then that's the most important thing.
Okay, because of course, I got into this cycle myself, I'll be honest. Like, if I don't sleep 8 hours at night, I'm failing myself, and then you create a stressor around
Then it's
trying to
even
recover,
worse.
you know? It's the same thing with going out with friends. Like, you want to have a drink and you're not going to have a drink because it's so bad for you. It really comes down to this question of balance, I guess. You know, you have
Completely.
to find some sort of middle ground, otherwise it's going to
Completely.
drive yourself nuts. I know that there's a nature and nurture debate here as well with regards to our stress response. So maybe person A was brought up in a family where it's a high stress family, like there's a lot of arguments, there's a lot of kind of constant stress in the household. Is that going to have a long-term effect on that person's stress response? Is that going to affect how they respond to stress or how often they feel stress?
Yes, it can cause dysregulated nervous system, right? And we also store past trauma in our bodies too. So we can store tension in different areas of the body. And I think that sometimes if you're not aware of how these past relationships and your childhood upbringing can affect your choices in today's life, if it's subconscious, it's hard to make a change. But then when you make the subconscious conscious, that's when you can actually start to make a change. And yes, we all also have different wired nervous systems.
Neuroplasticity you're talking about, so the way that things fire in our body, just to simplify
Yes,
it.
exactly. And this can affect the way we respond to certain things.
Okay, and can we change that? You also spoke about kind of trauma being stored in the body. Could you explain that to me a little bit more? So let's start with that. So how is trauma stored in the body? Do I have like a cut that never heals? Is it something which has been imprinted into my brain? I have a different form of neuroplasticity because something happened to me as a child. Can you play on that a bit?
Yes, so we can, store tension in different areas of the body. I mean, Gabor Mate is an amazing physician who has many books about this, and he talks a lot about it. And I am certainly no expert. This is not my area, but I really do believe that this is why we need to be focusing on trauma as well when we're focusing on healing and the healing process of our journey in life and health. So, for example, I might have someone who tells me, my boyfriend tells me I really clench my jaw at night. Okay, so clenching the jaw is a sign of a dysregulated nervous system and tension being held in the body. So when that woman is sleeping in bed at night, she's not switched off. Her nervous system is trying to keep her in survival mode.
Wow, so sympathetic nervous system is firing even during sleep.
Overdrive. Yes.
That's mad. So we've switched off, but that's still ongoing.
But that's still ongoing. So then with someone like that, then that's a clear sign to me that there's something deeper going on there. Okay, so why is the nervous system dysregulated? Is there, yes, a past trauma that your body hasn't forgotten that needs to be dealt with? Okay, and obviously then I would refer on to psychologists, psychotherapists, etc. Is it related to because you're not spending time to wind down at night before you go to bed? So you're literally high cortisol all day, rushing from one to the next. Get home, you're in bright light, you're also watching TV, all the screen time. Your body's completely thrown off. Okay, and then the body's in a state of stress. You haven't given it time to like
Chill out.
switch off and chill out, and now we're safe to actually go to bed and fall asleep and stay asleep.
Wow. And so you touched upon a point that I'm sure a lot of people are going to be curious of or about with regards to watching TV before bed. I know that a lot of people will have a Netflix episode, like to watch it before they go to sleep. Is that actually stimulating our sympathetic nervous system? Is that something you wouldn't recommend? Or once again, is it the question of balance? Yeah.
I think it's a question of balance, but also I think it's a question of the blue light exposure that's emitted from these screens. So whether it's your phone, your laptop, iPad, or television, these screens emit blue light. And blue light has been shown to reduce melatonin production, which is our sleep hormone. So if I have someone who's struggling with sleep, or they tell me I sleep 8 hours, but I still wake up feeling like I got hit by a bus in the morning, I'm always looking at optimizing their nighttime routine and their morning routine. Okay, so little tips, for example. At night, it's really good to keep the lights dim, okay? Because we want to be matching the sun and the moon, okay? So you want your night light to be very low, no overhead white lighting, so maybe some nice lamps with like orange or yellow lighting. If you are gonna watch TV, because maybe it's something that relaxes you, you know? I might have clients who live alone and are very lonely, and a Netflix episode gives them a sense of comfort. Why would I take that away from them, right? So I might tell them, okay, purchase some blue light blocking glasses.
Okay.
And at least we're reducing that emission of blue light on your eyes, so we're not affecting your melatonin so much. Or watch your episode, then spend half an hour in bed reading a book.
Okay, so these are all solutions people can use. It doesn't need to be the extreme of never watch TV or don't watch TV at night.
No extremes.
Okay, that's the general theme I'm getting from you. No extremes. Okay, and you spoke to me about morning routine. So everyone has heard of circadian rhythm by now, which is kind of what we do in the morning is going to regulate our sleep at night. Yeah. Is there a process you have here as well? Something you recommend to people?
Definitely. So get sunlight exposure. As soon as you wake up, at least within the first 30 minutes upon waking. So no sunglasses. So let's say if you make a nice hot drink in the morning, take it out on your balcony or in your garden, or just look outside the window if you don't have a balcony, or maybe go for a short walk around the block. So when your eyes detect the light, that's your body's way of becoming alert and knowing that, okay, now it's daytime, and it starts to produce melatonin for that nighttime sleep. Okay. And it also helps your body to produce serotonin, which can obviously impact your mood throughout the day.
Okay, I'm going to be the devil's advocate. We're approaching winter now. Some people wake up in the morning, it's dark, they'll go work in artificial light, maybe not get sunlight exposure, and we simply can't get 30 minutes of sunlight first thing when they wake up. Is there a solution for something like that?
Yes, you can get special lights like from Amazon that you can put on in your room. So there are also really nice alarm clocks that basically would, like, once they switch on, it will like create a sunrise effect in the room. And this can also be really good. There are specific grades of the lighting which you can look up. I won't get into the detail now, but they can really help that stimulation as well. And also, if you don't manage to go in the morning, still do that light exposure in your house before you go to work. But then in your break, try and go out for a little bit of a walk.
Still works. So
still helpful. Still important to, at least at some point during the day when it's light outside, for your eyes to see the natural light. Okay. So this whole thread that we took now all came from kind of stress response, how we respond to stress. There's another big word here that I'd love to ask you about. I swear there was a period of time where my Instagram feed was all adverts of vagus nerve stimulators and how this is going to change my life, and I almost buy it and then I don't. Should I have bought that vagus nerve stimulator? So what is this all about? What's this vagus nerve everyone's talking about, and how can it change my life, or is it just another gimmick? Yes, so you can stimulate your vagus nerve without any of these devices, okay? So the vagus nerve, for those who don't know, is a nerve. It's a large nerve. It runs from the brain down into the gut.
Okay.
And it's full of neurons, nerve cells, okay, which send signals from the gut from the brain into the gut and vice versa, okay? So it's like a communication highway, let's say.
Between two of the most important organs in our body, from what you've told me today.
Exactly. And what's important with the vagus nerve is having good vagal tone.
Okay.
So how do we tone the vagus nerve? Humming. Driving to work, I'm going to hum in the car.
No way.
Singing. Okay, gargling. So when you brush your teeth in the morning, little habit stacking. So you stack a habit over an existing habit is a really great way for behavior change. So I brush my teeth. When I'm rinsing my mouth, I gargle for 30 seconds. That stimulates my vagus nerve and improves vagal tone.
Okay, so you're saying something as simple as that can change my health.
Yeah.
Can change the communication between my brain and gut.
Consistently.
Of course, like everything. Right? It's all the reps, no?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I'm going to be humming on my way to work instead of swearing at people in traffic, it sounds like. Okay, so it is actually something very important for our health and something we should be looking at. Definitely. Is there some sort of vagus nerve disease? Is this something you see in clients, like a miscommunication between the brain and the gut? Can it be fixed if that's the case?
Yeah, so this would manifest as sometimes things like IBS.
No way. Mm-hmm. So it's not the gut which is unhealthy, it's the communication between the brain and the gut. How the hell do you figure that out?
You'd sort of figure it out from understanding if there's issues with stress, So a lot of the time with IBS, most of my clients with IBS have mental health issues as well. So I would always be looking at vagal nerve tone, because vagal nerve tone is going to also switch on the parasympathetic nervous system state. So switching them into rest and digest mode. So let's say if I have clients with IBS who tells me, I really struggle to eat, I feel full so quickly, I'm really bloated, I'd be like, okay, so when it's meal time, no screens, let's get you to sit down, take a few deep conscious breaths, or just hum if that's more your thing. Let's switch on the parasympathetic so that your body is primed to digest food now.
So you're literally playing with, you're treating the communication so that there isn't this miscommunication, this loss of regulation between the brain and the gut.
Because if the body is in survival mode, if I'm going from my laptop, bombarded with emails, or my boss is shouting at me, and then it's my lunch break, and I'm literally going straight into lunch, gobbling my food in front of my laptop, I'm still in fight or flight mode. I'm not going to digest that food properly. I'm probably going to swallow it without even chewing well either. And there's no teeth in the stomach.
Of course.
Right? So we need to get the basics right first. So there's all these supplements and I should be taking this and that and the other. Yes, they're amazing. I use them in clinic too when needed. But you have to get the foundations right. Let's sit down, be mindful at meal times, chew your food properly before you swallow, maybe do a bit of breath work before you start eating. All of these different things, usually, if you do them, have a huge impact.
Again, consistently with reps, but it can make a massive difference.
Yes.
It's incredible because the more people I speak to, the more it sounds like the fundamentals make all the difference. So if we can get someone to recover when they're sleeping, sleep well, sleep consistently, exercise, and everything around nutrition, which we've explored a lot today, you really can change 90% of people's lives, So there's things traditional medicine has to heal, but it sounds like this approach, the functional medicine approach, can keep us healthy for longer in a very, very, very interesting way.
100%. 100%.
Okay, we touched upon supplements. You said it's something that you do use in your practice, so supplements are an important part of your practice as well. Can you talk to me a bit more about that? So first of all, what are supplements? When do we prescribe them? What's that all about?
Okay, so there's different types of supplements, and literally they can supplement a diet. Okay, so it's like a little helping hand along the way. So there are certain things that I might use when I'm doing a gut healing program, for example, that I'd only use for a specific amount of time, just to help the process move a bit better. But then there are other things, like certain nutrients that maybe this client is deficient from because I've seen it in their blood tests. And we need to correct that deficiency first before we only focus on food. Okay, so this could be things like magnesium, omega-3. Maybe you don't like eating oily fish like anchovies, sardines, mackerel, which are full of omega-3 fatty acids that predominantly help to manage inflammation in the body. Our brain is predominantly made up of DHA, which is a type of omega-3 fats. They help with hormone regulation as well, insulin sensitivity, so your body's ability to use glucose, uptake into your cells. So omega-3, if you're not eating enough oily fish, you need to be supplementing with it. So either through an algae, vegan omega-3, or a fish oil.
Okay, but can most of the things we get from supplements be gotten from food as well? Or are there things that we can't get from our food and we have to supplement?
So things like vitamin D are hard to get through food. You only have very small amounts in certain types of foods. Mostly we get vitamin D from sunlight exposure. So depending on where you're living in the world, or if it's winter months, for example, it would be important to supplement with vitamin D. But I would say always test your levels. This is why I test, so that we can see your range, where you're at now, and then supplement accordingly with the correct dose.
Okay. And this is a question brought to us by one of our sponsors, Holland & Barrett. Are there supplements that you would say like are definite that everyone should have in their cupboard? Like, what are the main ones? If it's the top 3, what are those all about?
I'd say vitamin D, omega-3, and magnesium glycinate.
Okay, so those are things that you'd recommend most people should be taking. Again, it needs to be individualized, the dosage needs to be individualized,
Yes.
but that's something that most people should be taking and is required.
Yes.
Okay. And then if you do assess a person and there's a deficiency in something like magnesium, for example, or fish oils, would you recommend a higher dose for an amount of time? Is that normally how these things work?
Yes, I might adjust the doses of omega-3 according to their body weight as well, or their health conditions, for instance. So omega-3 can be super, super powerful. There's loads of studies behind it as well. Magnesium, generally, it's around 300 milligrams as a safe dose. And in vitamin D, as I said, if they're in a deficient state, we might give a higher dose for a few weeks just to bring up the level, and then put down a maintenance dose.
Okay. So there's a couple of questions that I feel it would be a disservice not to ask you. You're so knowledgeable on this topic and many others. So I'd love to know, are there certain foods which I can eat today but not feel any symptoms today? So are there things which are asymptomatic almost? I'm not going to notice any problems that are causing me long-term harm.
I mean, yes, it could be. I would always say, like, don't search for the problem. But obviously we do know that there are certain foods that can cause health issues. So if you're eating, let's say you're on holiday and you're having a really nice weekend, you're drinking alcohol every day, you're having a dessert every day with your meal, whatever, those few days are not going to outrun all the lovely foods that you eat all the time when you're back home. Okay? So I think it's just, again, there are certain things that can be asymptomatic, but don't search for them, if that makes sense.
Okay. Once again, like the same theme of balance, like just don't be too hard on yourself all of the time.
Yes.
Cool. I'm going to ask you a question, but it's a loaded one, which is, what does the future hold for you? And I'll tell you why it's a loaded one. We've had such a good chat that I'm sure you'll be back in a future season and I will hold you accountable to it. So what does the future hold for you? Do you want to continue working with clients one-on-one? Are you working on building something? What's the future all about?
Yes, so I love working with clients one-to-one, so that's definitely going to still be part of my services. I also give talks to corporate firms, and I really love that because it's a nice way of like spreading and educating and inspiring people. I have something which is launching in the new year, hopefully.
Wow.
But I'm going to keep it hush-hush for now.
No.
So, yes, I'm excited about it. It's going to be something new. It's going to be women-focused. And, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
I found that conversation so easy. I was genuinely asking you questions that I wanted answers to myself. So thank you so much for the time, the dedication you put into things, and for bringing a new functional medicine approach in Malta, which I feel we need more of both here and around the world. So thank you so much. That was super, super enjoyable. And for anyone watching, if that was helpful, please share it with your friends, people who can benefit. If you do ever need anything in the physiotherapy realm, fitness realm, please follow us on We Are Rise Physio on Instagram or subscribe to our YouTube. Thank you so much.